Sabaidi, WordCamp Asia. Oh, excellent.
Right.
Look at this wonderful crowd out here.
Yeah. And, I'm used to be standing when I speak. Feels a little different sitting down. But I hope you guys are full of energy. Are you? Okay.
I don't know that I believed them, Nirav. Are you all high energy?
All right. Okay, good. So, uh, it was 2014 when I met Matt for the first time in person.
Wow.
And we were at WordCamp San Francisco and taking selfies with him. And it was like a fan moment for me.
Yes.
WordCamps are like wonderlands for me. You have so many of your heroes here, people that you've seen online, people that you've learned from, and you've only seen them online. And you come to a WordCamp, and you can take selfies with them, you can shake hands with them. That's the opportunity you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we're going to miss that today because Matt is not here.
Yeah.
But I think, you know what? Matt is probably missing us more.
Oh, yeah. I'll say yes on his behalf.
Because I know, he rooted for WordCamp Asia.
Yes.
And he's been behind this to make this happen. And unfortunately, he's not here. So I know that while we miss him, when we bring him on, can we welcome him such that he feels that he's here? Yeah, that he's not sitting somewhere else, but he's with us. Can we please do that? Yeah. So let's welcome Matt. Can we have Matt in, please? Yes.
Oh, yay.
Yay!
I don't think I've ever been more scared of anything in my life. Great. Wonderful. Whew. So yes, there. If you cannot walk down these stairs, flag down one of our runners. Where are our runners? And they have a wireless microphone for you.
Yes. So when you're at the mic, say your name, where you're from, and what is your involvement in the project. And then go ahead and ask your question. Try to make it a question, and try to be crisp. Yeah.
Can y'all see and hear me now?
Yes. Yay!
Well, let me repeat what I said earlier, which was I am so excited, even to be here virtually with y'all, because to have a new continental scale WordCamp happening in Asia is amazing. And it's been a dream of mine and so many others for many, many years. So thank you all for making it happen. Really appreciate that. And if you want to take a selfie with me, now is the perfect time. Hi.
Yes. It's going to be an Aussie, though, because we are also here.
Well, I'll be in it. So
That's true. That's what counts. I guess I'll manage.
I can't wait to attend in person next year, and would love to see you all at future WordCamp. So I'm very, very sorry I couldn't make this one. Heartbreaking to me, but thank you so much for the whole team for setting up this virtual way that we can still connect via video.
Thanks to those organizers
thank you.
over there.
So just resuming what I was saying, one question will be alternating between pre-submitted and live questions. If you're in the line and if your question is already answered, feel free to step away. But before doing that, if you want to say hello to Matt, you're welcome to do that. Yeah. We may have to moderate or intervene at times, just in the interest of time. All questions are important, but we need to make sure that we can get maximum questions answered. Is that fair? Yeah? Okay. All right, so good to go?
Good to go.
All right, so let's start on this side. Please introduce yourself and ask a question.
First
Hello.
question.
Yeah, I'm first question on all three continents. So, I'm Milana Tsap from Serbia and from documentation team. And I have a question on behalf of documentation team, but also all Make teams. We have a foundation that is helping and supporting WordCamps, and that's wonderful. Thank you very much. But my question is, could we have something like that for Make teams? Now, volunteering and contribution and open source, it's all beautiful, and we don't have, we cannot afford that kind of romantic thinking because we are too big. It's not sustainable. So I understand that logistic of supporting all volunteers all over the world is a nightmare and maybe not possible. I don't have answers, I have only questions. But if we could have something that would help teams, sponsor something, I don't know, per project or something like that, and every team, besides what they are doing for WordPress, they also have a lot of other things that they are doing. So documentation team is not just writing documentation. We have so many things around it that we are working on, and we are paying tools by our own money. I'm paying a tool by my sponsored money from XWP. And if we could have some kind of support for those kind of things, that logistic that we are doing to be able to do what we do for WordPress, that would be so helpful. So if that's possible, I would like to see that while I'm still on inside the project. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your question. There were a few layers there, so I'll try to work through them. On tools you're using, I'm curious what tool that you're having to pay for, and that there wasn't an open source alternative. So what is that?
Yep. That is a tool that I build onboarding form for documentation team to help people, find a way and discover all the roles they can do in documentation team. And that involves conditions. So based on what you answer, I create condition to give you the list of the roles that you can work with. So there is no free tool for that. And I don't have enough time to build it myself. So, we have to balance time and what we can do. So there are tools that can simulate something like that, but the logistic is not completed, so I had to pay for it.
Actually, you pay for a WordPress plugin, or was it like a third-party
No.
SaaS?
It's a third-party service.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, a few things there. One, like part of what we want to do on WordPress.org and with the Meta team is try to use our development efforts to try to create open source versions of everything you need to build a community like WordPress is. So hopefully someday, I think it's great. Let's be pragmatic. So, and thank you, I guess, XWP for paying for that tool that you used. If anyone else needs any tools, we don't mind paying for software if we need to. We're always looking for an open source first if we can. And many companies are very happy to donate their services to us, such as Slack does currently for our .org Slack. But if there's ever something you need, please don't hesitate to get in touch with the sort of Meta team if you need a tool sponsored for getting something done. On the broader issue of being sponsored or not, I will say that the foundation side of WordPress, as you know, has had no employees ever since it started. So no one gets paid by the foundation. We do grants and scholarships and sponsorships and things like that. But it's not really set up to be an employment entity. WordPress has always tried to be a place where people can come together, regardless of who employs them or how they get paid or whether they want to get paid or not, and work together on something. I realize that this isn't for everyone, and that a number of folks, as part of their Five for the Future contribution, companies sponsor people. Automatic has over 100 people that we sponsor full time that just contribute to various elements of WordPress. And you sounds like work for XWP, a number of other companies. Yoast is a big one that sponsors a ton of great people. But I would strongly disagree with you that people need to be sponsored or that sponsored work is better. I think that open source is the idea of coming together around a cause. It's not about being paid for the work. It doesn't mean the work isn't valuable. In fact, it's, as we say, both free and priceless at the same time. But yeah, I don't see that changing for the foreseeable future, that the foundation will ever have any employees. It's really just meant to be a intellectual property holding, doing things like events and places to facilitate places where we need an entity, but not an employment entity now or in the future.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I didn't say that sponsored work is better, just to make sure. I didn't say that, and I don't think that. I'm just think it's more sustainable when we have something, a project to do like this redesign that has been done. It's marvelous, but it took a lot of time, and sometimes we need things to be done faster. So, maybe having some kind of support would do it faster. That's all I'm saying.
So you then identified another issue, which is in many areas we are moving, I think, a lot slower than we should. I would love to say that paying people would necessarily help them go faster, but I have lots of experience in working inside Automatic with projects that went too slow, even though everyone was paid. So I think there's something else there that we need to identify and get a lot better at around how we are. If I had to guess, I would say that too often we are doing particularly design by committee and trying to develop a consensus and everything. And it would probably be better if we just chose a single person to be a decision maker and said, even if we don't all agree with it, let's just start with that person's decisions and use that to move things through faster. And then we can always iterate from there. But right now we're taking a very long time to get the version 1 out. And I think that's not conducive for creating great products or experiences or anything. I wrote an essay on this on my blog. So ma.tt, if you look for, I think it was called 1.0 is the loneliest number. I talk a lot about sort of the idea of design by committee, consensus, and creating great user experiences. If I'm super honest, right now I'm pretty embarrassed by a lot of what's going on WordPress.org, the website right now. I think the information architecture, the design, the menu system, everything is not up to the standard of what WordPress itself provides, which is world-class software. So inside the core software, I think that we're doing pretty decent and in many places, fantastic job of many things. But we haven't yet been able to translate that to the projects surrounding it, including WordPress.org itself. So it's very, very much on my mind and something I've been talking to Josepha a lot and thinking about. And you just heard my best theory that perhaps we need more, sometimes we call them DRIs or directly responsible individuals. Maybe try that approach a little bit more than necessarily the consensus, which we've been attempting now for several years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So at this time, as I was hearing the answers and questions, something else popped up. And, Subhashis Chatterjee from the community had a very interesting question. And I could relate to that as a parent of 2 school-going daughters. And he said, is there any way that we can start WordPress, education, using WordPress, teaching people to code with WordPress, and at school level? That was quite interesting. And as I think of it, if you imagine the impact this could have over the long-term future, it's just amazing. So, any thoughts on that? How do we get kids start contributing early, get to use WordPress early?
Josepha, if you're up for it, I'd love for you to take this one because I think you're more familiar with all the progress we're doing all over the world there.
So I'm just going to double check. We're asking how to get WordPress taught in schools and how to get WordPress very young. Okay. So first things first, my favorite question. This is a thing that I worked on before I even was sponsored to work on WordPress by Automatic. I want WordPress as a software and as a way to collaborate with one another to be in schools. I think it's something that we have to be able to teach people. WordPress can teach you how to use all of your 21st century skills well, but also it is able, if you're contributing, you're able to learn how to work across cultures, you're able to work across global boundaries, as all of you are aware. I've worked with some of you for like 5 or 6 years, and I've never been in the same room with you before today. And I think that's fascinating. So I'm a strong advocate for it. And in my current experience of trying to get open source or WordPress into school systems, it moves too fast for them to be able to build curriculum. And if it's not moving quickly, then they are worried about this concept of open source. It's kind of like a power to the people sort of thing, and schools find that moderately alarming. So that's why we have not succeeded, I think, at getting that done yet. But around the question of like how to get it to young users early, we are working on getting kidscamp started back up. If anyone is familiar with that, it's students who are 13 and younger. They get to go to a whole day of sessions alongside a regular WordCamp, and they get to learn basics of WordPress, basics of basically project management, and for some of them, like the start of their entrepreneurial spirit is there. But then also, I've been having a lot of conversations with our attendees this weekend about how to do that also for like basically teenagers, because teenagers don't want to do anything that their parents want them to learn. And so we got to figure out a way to help them get that experience as well. So strong advocate, lots of difficulty getting it done in my current experience.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah.
I love that you mentioned kids, and perhaps that's actually something that could be part of future WordCamp Asia's as well.
Yes.
That'd be
That'd
awesome.
be pretty neat.
Yeah.
Is there a Slack channel or a place for people whom they're helping, younger folks get involved with WordPress, coordinate or share what they're doing?
Yeah. I don't know if there's a specific channel for like kids camp and such, but we do have the community team in the Making WordPress Slack where you can join the working groups for those things. But also, if you just want some self-serve content that helps expose your students, your children to WordPress, you can also go to learn.wordpress.org. There's a lot of content there as well. Oh, and meetups. Don't forget meetups.
So
anyone can go to a meetup event.
Maybe let's call it like a hashtag kidscamp or something. And you know what? I'll start that right now. I'm on a computer. So this is actually on stage.
Make it so.
And then folks who are interested about that, because in education, no one understands better than a parent or teacher who's directly working with the kids. And so I think the folks who are attempting this are going to have the most wisdom and experience there. And if they can start sharing in a peer-to-peer way what's worked and what hasn't, I think that would be kind of the best way to scale this up.
Yeah, awesome. So,
Yogesh next.
Yeah, as we're talking about learning and Learn WordPress, I had another question from the community earlier. Lux Mariappan, he said, how can designers and developers upskill themselves? Now, we have some great material on learn.wordpress. What else can we do so that, all these new things, it's easier for people to learn all that?
Yeah. Matt, do you want to answer it or do you want me to answer it?
Well, I just made the Kids Camp channel.
Okay. So I'll answer it because he was busy.
On the WordPress. Go ahead.
Oh, no. So the question is, how do you help designers and developers level up their skills.
Yes.
I think one of the best ways in the WordPress project that you can do that is actually participating in a Do Action hackathon. So those hackathons are put together by the community, but through the WordPress Foundation. And you can learn all sorts of skills required to work inside that, to work with WordPress. And you're actually building websites for people, sometimes creating content for companies and nonprofits. And so you get a lot of hands-on opportunities and that pragmatic work that helps you to remember it. So that's my recommendation.
All right, so shall we go to another question here on the right-hand side?
Michelle has a question.
Michelle, do you have? Oh, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
One moment.
Okay, perfect. So Michelle Frechette with Stellar WP and Post Status. Nice to see you, albeit from the other side of the world. With the wave of layoffs and hiring freezes that we've seen lately in the WordPress community, what do you think that we as a community can do to create more jobs in our ecosystem and stop the anxiety and fear that comes with the layoffs that we've seen? Not a softball question today, I know.
Never softball questions.
Not from
for you.
me. Yeah.
Sorry, Matt.
One moment, Matt.
One moment.
Oh, no.
1 second, Matt. Oh, now we can't hear you at all. Okay, hang on.
He's given a good answer.
We can tell it's an excellent answer.
Oh.
Maybe
Oh, we
type
can
in the
read it.
chat.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. One thing that I found consistent through economic boom times and recessions is that we try to create more value than we capture. And so as we continue to just stay close to our customers, stay close to people doing real things in the world, I think actually WordPress can benefit from recessionary times as well, because we provide one economic agency where people can do things themselves. Everyone can be an entrepreneur with WordPress. Businesses always are going to need more customers, and they might become more price sensitive. You know, if they find they're paying hundreds of dollars at Shopify, and a WooCommerce site could do it for 1/10 the cost, or they're spending too much money on Wix and Squarespace. So I would encourage, people with WordPress skills to look at businesses in their area or ones they have contact to, particularly who might be spending more on some of these other services, and look at the opportunity to bring them to WordPress, because you could probably give that business or nonprofit or whatever organization it is a better website and save them a ton of monthly cost as well, which would be really great. So I feel like open source really shines in recessionary times. In terms of as a community, I feel like the relationships that are formed at WordCamps and online and by people working together and by contributing to open source is really one of the very best ways to also be connected to jobs as well. And from the very first days of WordPress, when I was starting Automatic, who did I look to? Of course, the people I had already been working with building early versions of WordPress and MU, and folks like Donica, Andy Skelton, and Ryan Bourne. Like, these were folks I had already had experience working sort of shoulder to shoulder, making things with. And so participating in an open source project, if you find yourself having some extra time, is a great way also to build your portfolio, to make professional contacts, to network. So alongside other things you might be doing, like polishing your resume, improving your portfolio, I would say, I know as someone who's hired thousands of people, one of the first things I always look at is their open source contributions. I can't think of a developer application I've gotten in the past 15 years that didn't have a GitHub link. So contributing and participating in something is a great way to fill those holes in your resume as well.
Yeah.
I'm going to add on a thing here for the folks here and watching at home or wherever you are. I think also an important part of this answer is that you all are a step ahead of everyone who isn't here already, right? You came here to learn about WordPress or to teach others about WordPress, and you are making those connections that Matt's talking about, where you are finding other people that you can do fun projects with, learn new skills, or just partner and come up with a new business entirely. And I think that that's excellent. I'm so glad that you all are here for that reason and many others. So,
Yeah. See, when that conversation is going on, I'm just kind of in the presence of the contribution that WordPress has had on this community, the
Yes.
Asian community. It's created so many jobs already. I mean, like 2010 is when we started store apps and doing all this WordPress work, and I didn't even imagine where this could reach.
right.
And I meet so many people every day. WordPress has changed so many lives here. Would you agree to that or not? Like, has WordPress changed your life? Yeah? Yeah.
Mine for sure.
Yeah.
Oh.
So it does change lives. It may take time at times. There are ups and downs, right? And life goes through the stages. But this community has contributed a lot back, and it's also received a lot. On that topic, when we thinking about the roadmap for 2023, is there anything specific or particular, any announcements or updates that you think this community needs to know about WordPress, the project?
Before we get to that, should we take another audience question? Or?
Sure, we could do that. Yeah, we have people lining up. All right, so let's go to this side, and then we can come back to that.
Hi, my name is Yogesh. I am from Bangalore, India.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah. Okay, my question is, recently we see that there's a lot of upheaval in the tech scenario, and things change rapidly. But when they change, a lot of it affects the people who are usually working in the open source. Like when Google went with X on the jobs, the first thing they cut down was their open source contributions department. And then on the other side, Microsoft came up with ChatGPT, yeah, very, very popular, but they took it, they basically bought GitHub, they used all the contributions, and they closed source it. They say, no, not really closed source, but they monetize it. And so we see that the tragedy of commons keeps happening out there. So as WordPress is around 42% of the web, how do we make it resistant to tragedy of commons? Or how do we make the open source itself resistant to tragedy of commons?
You had a few really good things in there, so I'll try to address each of them. First, for technology like ChatGPT and other large language models and other things, I think are absolutely the future, and we should be thinking about how we can leverage them to make ourselves more productive and not try to fight it. So the best, but they also, we should recognize their limitations. The best essay I've seen so far, actually one of my favorite sci-fi writers, Ted Chiang, wrote an essay for The New Yorker called ChatGPT is a blurry JPEG of the web. It's an amazing analogy showing like how these things learn and why they astound us in certain ways, and also their limitations. But I 100%, just like you might have had a IDE or something else that would help you with autocomplete based on reading the code and knowing the classes, like imagine that times 10, and it's going to improve the quality and our ability to create software so quickly. Like there's articles and YouTubes online of people creating entire WordPress plugins in minutes, using ChatGPT or Bing or other things. So I think it would be foolish to ignore this. And I don't see it as, I'm not sure how it's going to play out economically. So I was kind of astounded. There are groups like Stable Diffusion who have been able to take things that OpenAI did and basically create open source equivalents 6 months later, which was years faster than that happened. So the open source community is also moving very quick on putting these tools more in the hands of people, which is exciting because I think
Matt, I'm going to have to interrupt you mid-thought.
The
Oh, no,
captions.
we're reading you. Never mind, continue.
So the best that I've been able to come up with there in talking to thousands of WordPress community members and studying the history of open source and economics and everything like that is a Five for the Future. So for those who aren't familiar, Five for the Future is basically the idea that says, if you are benefiting from WordPress in some way, like if it's changed your life, if you're making money from it, it's kind of like there used to be like these leave a penny, take a penny stars. Like you could say, take 5% back of whatever you feel like getting from WordPress, contribute that back to the open source side. So whether that's like a variety of ways that people can contribute, whether it's documentation, support. I probably don't need to explain it to y'all because we're probably all doing it already by dint of being at WordCamp Asia. But I feel like if we can continue the ethos, us all benefiting a tremendous amount from WordPress, but also taking a little bit, just 5%, and putting that back in the commons, that will help us avoid the commons. And it's certainly allowed us to be, I think, one of the most successful long-term open source projects so far. And when I see, our other open source projects and our cohort competitors, or that haven't had as vibrant a community of us, it's generally been when they haven't had that social moray or norm of contributing. And so that's why we talk about it so much. It's also why we demonstrate it, why I do it myself by contributing a lot of my time back to WordPress, and for companies that I'm involved in, both that I invest in or run like Automatic, we take it very seriously now to the tune of over 100 full-time people. So we try to lead by example there, but I think anyone who's really done it also can talk to the benefits of how contributing can benefit you a lot as well as the community. So the good news is that I don't worry about it because it's in everyone's interest for the commons to thrive with open source. And that's why when open source, the flywheel kind of gets going of contribution and the improvements in the software leading to more usage, which leads to more contributors, which leads to the software getting better. It becomes kind of a world standard, if you will, much like WordPress is starting to. We have 10 times the number of domains using us as the number 2 in the market, which is a proprietary competitor called Shopify. So if we continue doing that, it doesn't mean that we don't need to ruthlessly iterate ourselves and get better at doing meetings and collaborating and everything else. But if we keep doing that, I can see WordPress. I could see WordPress being around, not just around, but actually core to the fabric of the web 100 years from now. And I would love to attend a WordCamp Asia in my 80s or something like that.
That's so awesome. All right. Thank you.
Ooh, I do want to give a fast where are you to hurry. If you want to know more, there you are. If you want to know more about the Five for the Future program, that excellent steward of that program is the person to speak to. I'm sure that he will be made available out here in the sponsor area.
Right. Shall we take one more question?
Yes.
Yeah.
Hi, Matt. Good morning. My name is Vishal. I am from India, and we build plugins for WooCommerce. We have been doing that since 2012. So yeah, it has created a lot of livelihoods for me and for our team of 17, 20 people. My question is regarding the onboarding process of the self-hosted version of WordPress. So currently, when we download the WordPress version, It is meant to be for a developer or someone who knows what's the database username, what's the password, and those things. Do we have a plan to change it such that rather than all those details coming first, we ask as to what is the kind of site that you are trying to build, with this particular installation. Let's say, maybe a physiotherapist is trying to build a blog, or someone, based on the domain that they want to use it for, based on the purpose of the site. That's what we ask first, and then we follow up based on that instead of what is the theme you want to install, what's the plugin you want to install. So yeah, do we have a plan or anything in that context?
That's a great question. Thank you. Our plan has been to leave that to the folks providing WordPress as a service, whether that's the web host or the WordPress as a SaaS type providers. And there's been a ton of innovation in that onboarding flow. And if you look at the Bluehost or the WordPress.coms of the world, like there's a lot they're doing to experiment there. And as to whether we should do that core as well, I'm open to it. Like, there's no reason not to. It's just been something we've decided not to do so far. But if that's something that you're personally passionate about or want to spin up, we could definitely start to do some of that in core. And of course, because it would be completely configurable, anyone who already has a custom onboarding would just turn off the bits of our onboarding that they don't like. But there's so much to do within like the kind of after the onboard user experience, with the 4 phases of Gutenberg that we're working on, but also just all the rest of WP admin. There's just so much we can still improve. That hasn't seemed like the most crucial area. It definitely appears that it's not that these parts aren't important, it's that we're bringing a lot of people onto WordPress every day. It's that I think a lot about that maintenance and that usability for how to customize the site that you want. And sort of picking a theme and a plugin only gets you so far. What we're trying to do with Gutenberg block themes is actually take it so that so much of what before you used to have to use a plugin or a theme for, we can provide a common block-based interface for. And so my hope is that as Gutenberg gets further and further, like you'll basically start with like kind of a blank canvas and be able to use block patterns and other things to create a site just exactly like you imagine and customize it however you like. Well, right now, themes are basically kind of prepackaged versions of that. But I mean, it's not going to be in the next couple of years, but maybe 10 or 15 years from now, you could imagine basically everyone starting with somewhat of a blank canvas theme, or themes themselves just being collections of these patterns and blocks.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of the answer to onboard, is at least that we're doing core.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Matt.
That's an interesting perspective, actually. And that kind of links back to contribution, right? So what do you think could be some of the most impactful ways the Asian community in particular can contribute to WordPress in meaningful ways, especially keeping the big picture goals of 2023 and beyond, like the next 10 years?
Matt?
Yeah, I would say that. Oh, did you want to jump in, Josepha?
Can I start and then you do it?
Sure.
Great. So I think, especially since you're here with exactly the right people, some of the things that are most impactful that you all as a community can do right now is, number one, get the meetup programs, your meetup events started again. That helps a lot with wherever you went, Yugesh. I don't know where you went with the 5 for the Future question as well. Having more people attending these events helps us to onboard new users and onboard new contributors. So that's one thing. Yeah. And the other thing that is so incredibly important right now is is translating our content that is on WordPress.org. The training content that's out there needs to be translated into all the 200 languages that WordPress core is translated into. And our docs as well, I think, could use some attention from a translation standpoint. So those are the 3 things that I would say you could do right now. Now, Matt, what you got?
And by the way, normally Josepha and I would be in person,
Yeah.
and we would kind of like look at each other to know who was going to go first. So
It's so
since we
weird
can't do
not to
that
have
now,
him here.
please just feel free to jump in or interrupt me at any point if you want to take something. I was going to say exactly what you said.
Oh, shoot. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. You said it better. And it is true that outside of Japan, it feels like many of the countries represented at WordCamp Asia, WordPress's adoption within many of these countries and languages is not as must. It is in English, German, Spanish, some of these Japanese. So I would say that no one better than you how to connect to the local community of starting in schools, adults, developers, agencies, small businesses, colleges, universities, really making WordPress present in every single one of those and truly localizing it and translating it, not just in the language, but for the needs of that particular culture and society is something that the folks in this room will be able to do better than myself or or anyone else. So that I would say is really one of the critical things that particularly to see as we start to this is the first WordCamp, but hopefully the first of very many. Something I'd love to see develop a lot more.
Yeah, the difference between
I'm
localization
going
and
to call out because
translation, I
you
think,
asked the
is
question, India. And I mentioned to Josepha that India itself is so large, has such an amazing diversity of languages and everything. I mean, it's a billion people on its own. Feels like it should also probably have its own sort of continental WordCamp. And so I think it's awesome that y'all are part of WordCamp Asia, but it feels large enough that perhaps sort of an Indian WordCamp could be something that is kind of the same size as WordCamp Europe, WordCamp US.
Fear not, we've been talking about it all weekend, and everybody that I've talked to about it is chuckling to themselves. See, I told you, he was in favor.
Awesome.
Yes, already discussing it. Yeah, if you want to learn more, that hand wave was for you.
Awesome. Shall we continue with another question? Yes, on this side.
So, hi Matt, I'm Arun from India. I've been doing hosting business since 2009, and frankly, WordPress gets a lot of bad rap of not being secure, not being fast, not being well supported, not easy to maintain because of the basically KLS hosts, which is sort of improving recently. What do you basically see happening in the near future, and what more would you like to be seen, and as an opportunity for the hosting industry per se?
Well, first, thank you for hosting WordPress. You identified it very correctly that if you think of the everyday experience of most WordPress users, it's primarily mediated by the host. And the hosts are taking on a lot of responsibility to keep their site secure, updated, not just WordPress, but everything underneath it. You think of the operating system, the web server, the databases, all of these need to be patched and updated continuously. The hardware underlying things, you need to run backups, you need to repair things when they're hacked. Like the host really is best suited and has the technical proficiency beyond most WordPress users to be able to address these sorts of things. I think it's getting better also just from the competitive nature of hosting, which is, as I'm sure you're very aware, a very competitive marketplace where there's a lot of folks really doing their best to provide a fantastic experience. What we focused on in WordPress was really the auto update system and having updates and backwards compatibility being something that we take very, very seriously. So when I've studied sort of platforms and operating systems, everything in the past, it's really about how you can update not just the core, but all the components on top of it, the themes and plugins. And I feel like for core, we've gone to a very, very good place where, as you know, we can even push out proactive security updates to tens of millions of sites in hours. And we've done that to keep sites secure across the web. I think that there's still a lot to do there, particularly around plugins and themes. And I'd love to extend some of our bug bounties, some of the way we do security, some of the way we do code audits to top 100 plugins, but really everything in the directory. Because when we have something in our official directory, we're also endorsing it a little bit, not explicitly, but we're sort of implicitly saying like, hey, we're hosting this. So just like you hosting someone's WordPress, you're taking a little bit of responsibility. When we host a plugin or theme, we are taking a little bit of responsibility for it. This is also someplace, we have a number of code scanning tools and other things we've run in the past. So like when we become aware of a certain type of vulnerability, we can actually scan the entire plugin repo, work with developers to update it. If a plugin's abandoned, sometimes we even update it ourselves. In the future, I'm actually very, very excited about AI enhancing this. So just like I talked about, I feel like AI is going to make every developer, designer, basically everyone a lot more efficient and productive. Each person will be able to do a lot more with these sort of increased AI-assisted tools. I'm very excited that when we can start to run sort of code AI scanners and things over the entire repository, both before, but also all the extensions to WordPress, and how that can help us improve the quality of those. For the folks in the audience who are theme developers or plugin developers, the most important thing you can do is just have people be able to trust updates. And I know that's so hard. And with the plugins I'm involved with, including WooCommerce, we've made mistakes there in the past. But there's nothing more important than someone, looking forward to that update button, or even better yet, us being able to just without even anyone needing to think about it, just everything being on auto update. That will allow us to be the most secure and provide the best user experience over time.
So just to add a couple of things there, like updates is usually never the problem, never in the back of the mind of entrepreneur who's getting the website up. It's usually starts with performance and sort of whether the website will be up or not. So those are the two things whenever we have a conversation between Shopify versus WooCommerce. So just a thought there, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been on my mind quite a bit. We've had some incredible gains there over the past couple of years, including with the doubling of PHP performance that came with PHP 7, 7.2. Databases are getting better. I'm actually really, really excited with the SQLite work that's going on as a MySQL alternative for many WordPress sites. That'll open up some very exciting kind of performance improvements, including things like being able to replicate sort of a SQLite containerized version of WordPress to the edges. So, it automatically run 23 sort of points of presence around the world that are like a Cloudflare-like CDN that allows us to accelerate things. Being able to shift actually the compute of WordPress to the edge is going to be very, very exciting for improving performance. And I think that, well-run WordPress is, with proper caching and everything set up, is one of the most secure and fastest things you can do. Powering sites is mission critical and as security critical as like the whitehouse.gov. And I think that part of what I always think about is how do we take the thing that right now we do for big enterprises or people spending millions of dollars and make that accessible to everyone. So I would love for anyone on a $5 or $10 a month web host to be able to have that same level of security and performance. So we're always looking at like, what can we do in core? What can we do in kind of the basic systems of how we work to bring those improvements and optimizations into the core software. That's been one of the benefits as well for example, with WordPress.com, we made the decision not to fork the software. Basically, WordPress.com runs core WordPress MU. And in fact, many times, I think we've fallen behind this a little bit. We'll actually deploy like beta or release candidate versions of WordPress to WordPress.com before the WordPress release. And we do that to get it on, tens and hundreds of millions of sites, getting billions of page views, to find any bottlenecks before it goes out in the core software. So that's something that Automatics contributed. I know other hosts have done a lot of testing like that as well, and something we hope we can do more of in the future.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you. We have about 15 minutes left, so we're going to be quick on this side.
Hello.
Still talking. Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shilpa from WP Cubicle. And what I really want to ask is, why aren't you here? But I'll ask. I'll stop on that. In my past life, over the past 10 years, we've had a bunch of plugins on the WordPress plugins directory. And I'm sort of in the early stages of getting a new one there. But the things that made me nervous, with early on, starting on, still make me nervous, as in the lack of data, from the point of view of how many people are, landing on my WordPress or plugin directory page, how many of them are actually downloading, and how many of them are installing it every day. Feedback like that would be tremendously useful for a freemium plugin. And so, is there? I don't know if there's something going on in the background, but I would love to hear from you about that, please. So, how can you make it easier for us?
The news is there is some work happening. So there is, as we know on WordPress.org, we're very privacy focused. So but we are looking at sort of what's telemetry or more statistics we can share. There was sort of because exactly what you said. I want people to be able to think about how to optimize and their findability. I would love better feedback loops. I think that we need to integrate the forums quite a bit better, because users being able to, for example, I'd love for within WP admin, people be able to really easily leave feedback. So for example, there might be users who install your plugin when they're turning it off. Is there something we can capture when they're turning it off that then can go back to WordPress.org, be shared with everyone, but also shared with the plugin developer? I think those types of, in the user interface, there's little nudges we can do that could provide really great feedback loops. And if we do it right, it also provides great data for people searching the plugin directory and trying to decide between 10 different plugins doing the same things, which they should choose. I'm very excited with, in State of the Word, we announced our new taxonomy for sort of discerning between free plugins, solo plugins, community plugins, commercial plugins, and sort of canonical plugins. I think that's also going to be in the directory a great way for both users to be able to choose what they're looking for and set expectations correctly, and also developers and plugin creators to communicate what they're doing. Also, thank you for asking the kind of elephant in the room question, which is why I'm not there in Bangkok. I really wish I was. And right now I'm navigating some family health things, and I decided to prioritize staying here in Houston. So I just couldn't make it, but I really am hopeful that they are going well. So I hope I'll be able to travel again in the future, and hopefully before not too long. And so by the next time WordCamp Asia is, have you all announced the city it's going to be in yet? I don't know where, but I'm very much looking forward to being there and meeting everyone in person, shaking hands, taking selfies, all those sorts of things. That's one of the things that gives me a ton of energy. And yeah, attending WordCamps is really one of my favorite parts of the job too. So I really am looking forward to being there in person in the future.
Anyone ever thought that your WordPress mentors were joking when we said we want you to put your family and well-being first? This is an example of why we do mean that all the way around. And so yes, and we, again, huge thanks to the organizers for helping us to make this work out anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Hello, Matt. My name is Kitan Ansamuri from Thailand. You can call me Moss. Thank you for having me to ask you a question. It has been around 3 years and a half that since your company Automatic acquired Tumblr. Since then, I saw some improvement on the platform, and I'm impressed that you can manage both platforms really in a great way. So my question is, after the acquisition, which aspect of Tumblr that influenced the development of WordPress, especially in the open source one? And also, what is your plan to develop both platforms even further?
Thank you. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's taking a little longer than we hoped, but we are planning to switch the back end of Tumblr to be WordPress powered. So that's going to mean hundreds of millions of new WordPress sites in the world. And I'm very, very excited about that. WordPress is robust enough. It can do everything that the back end of Tumblr needs to do. Now, simultaneously, we've also been doing a business turnaround of Tumblr. So, when we purchased Tumblr, it was losing, I think we publicly disclosed, over $65 million per year. So bringing that to a break even and sort of like stemming that burn has been the first priority, because of course we want Tumblr to be around for many years in the future. And to do so, it does need to be at least break even, hopefully profitable, but at least break even for us to really promise to its community and users that we'll be able to sustain it for many, many decades to come. As we're doing that, though, the turnaround is going well. Like, you have seen a lot of platform improvements with the sort of tumultuous nature of social media recently, especially with Twitter. We've gotten some huge influx of users, and people also just sort of appreciating the fun stuff we're doing, like with the polls feature and other things we've been doing. Tumblr is basically blogging that's really fun. And so I believe what it's inspired me to think more about, both with WordPress.com and also core WordPress, is how can we add little moments of fun and delight? Something that we had in some of the early days of WordPress, but we kind of have iterated our way out of, is Easter eggs, language that could be fun or silly, being celebratory. So, for example, when you make a new post, can we do a fun animation there? Can we show some confetti dropping or just things like that? I think that we have a lot more room to be opinionated and irreverent a little bit in some of the design of the software. I know that feels less safe sometimes, or we can always come up with reasons why we shouldn't have those things. But I think it's really important to WordPress to have some personality as well, and the very core interface. It's in things like the Hello Dolly plugin and others, but how can we bring a little more jazz into WordPress? How can we bring a little more of that joie de vivre of the fun that we have creating it? We want to translate that into the fun that everyday people have been using it. The other thing that has been on my mind quite a bit is if I have to think of an original sin of WordPress, or something that is a flaw in how the software has been designed, I think it's our importance on titles. I know this sounds kind of weird and fundamental, but really going back to the B2 days, something that distinguished WordPress from Blogger, LiveJournal, some of the Frontier, Userland, or Scripting.com, some of the other early blogging platforms, was WordPress made the title you basically required it. And particularly when we started adopting our way of doing permalinks, that included the title as part of it. We really made it very central. And it's kind of hard to publish something without a title. And I feel I know it sounds subtle, but there's something kind of magical about what I would call asides on my blog. I forget what we might have called them when we did post formats, but it's kind of what Twitter is microblogging. That idea of just being able to have an update that doesn't necessarily need a title on it. So I've been talking to Matthias a lot about this and some of the Gutenberg team, but how we can make it easier, both in theming and the core interface, to really make titles more optional, because I just want people to be able to feel like they can post anything to their blogs. A little bit how blogging has evolved over the past 5 or 10 years, with people thinking a lot about SEO and findability and social media optimization, everything. takes a little bit of the fun and spontaneity out of it. I've experienced this myself in my own blogging. I used to post hundreds of times per year, and now I think of it a little bit more like writing a college essay. Like I really need to do a lot of work to put something out there. And just if we can lower those barriers to entry and make people comfortable with posting just silly things or just posting a link or just posting a YouTube embed or something, and not every blog post having to be like a huge thing with a title and paragraphs and SEO optimized and a featured image and all that sort of kind of additional burden we put on post. It's great to allow that, and some blogs will do that and some posts will be that. But I think that kind of microblogging is something that I want to make a lot more effortless within the interface.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 5 more minutes. So if you can get to the thing quickly, then we can, yeah.
Matt, hey Matt, Bob WP here.
I do want to answer the question just very quickly. You said, is there something, to announce or talk about here at WordCamp Asia? And of course I have something for y'all, which is that we are getting ready to kick off a lot of phase 3 of Gutenberg. So, we've been talking about this, 5-7 years now. And phases 1 or 2 are in such a good place that, phase 3 is, I would say the kickoff for that is coming soon. So keep an eye out. And to remind people, phase 3 is the collaboration phase of Gutenberg. So allowing things like real-time co-editing of documents, pages, themes, blocks, entire sites, so people can be kind of working on it at the same time on different computers and see what's going on. Editing workflows. I want to really improve post revisions. So there's a lot that's coming, in, inviting people to share a draft or submit comments. Like all that kind of workflow and collaboration part is going to be phase 3. And blogging is definitely something more fun when you do it with other people, and site creation and everything, like many things in life, the more the merrier. And so, keep an eye out for phase 3. Very excited to say that is coming soon.
Hey Matt, Bob WP here from your part of the world. Question for you. I know your love of science fiction, and you're intrigued with time travel. If you had one point in time in WordPress history to travel back to, what would that be? When would it be, and why?
Oh, wow.
Of course, think quick.
Travel. There's I would happily do the entire thing over again.
Lame answer, Matt. I'm sorry.
The day that Mike Little left the comment on my blog, and that we started, chatting with each other on IRC and started collaborating, bringing in the volunteer. I'd do the whole thing over again 1,000 times. So, I guess that's when I would time travel back to.
Thanks, Matt.
All right. So, can we take one question or?
Matt, are you going to be able to answer a question in 30 seconds? I'm going to take it as a yes. One more question.
Yeah.
Speed answer.
Okay, quick question. I'm Leo from Malaysia. I run an agency. The issue I face in WordPress that is about marketing WordPress. So I run agencies. We have other agencies coming to my clients telling them that WordPress is not secure, WordPress is not fast, which we know is not true. But the problem is we have clients moving from WooCommerce to Shopify, back to WooCommerce, and then Shopify, and they say, hey, WooCommerce is not secure. I say, really? When they know me, they say, you don't know the right guy, right? You don't know the right agency. But overall, I don't know about other countries, but I know in Malaysia, WordPress gets a bad rap. People think WordPress is for cheap websites, not enterprise websites. And what can we do as a community to change the image of WordPress? What do you think?
I love this question.
My quick answer is nothing is as good as showing examples. So doing excellent work and then raising the profile of those. And I know we've redesigned the showcase, but I really want to make this a lot more prominent. And I want every single Rosetta site, every single language and country version of WordPress.org to have a really prominent showcase. So by elevating the best examples of WordPress, I think that is better, because we can, say all day that WordPress is secure, it's performant, or something like that. But being able to point to a site like whitehouse.gov that switched to WordPress, and when the war in Ukraine started, all the Kremlin sites got hacked. Whitehouse.gov did not. Like being able to point to examples like that, say, well, if it's secure enough for the White House, like it gets secure enough for you, probably, is really, really helpful. So examples is my short answer. And
Thank you. Yeah.
I guess we're out of time. Can I just say thank you all? Like this has been amazing. I can tell there's a ton of energy in the room. I've been watching the tweets and some of the live streams, and it's been so exciting to follow along. This is really one of the best WordCamps I've seen yet, and that's a testament to the organizers and also everyone who's there. So thank you so much.
You want to take us home?
You
Me?
wanna say something?
I'll finish this up. Do you want to? You're finishing this up? Me?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Okay, my friends. Thank you, Matt, for joining us all the way from the other side of the world. Thank you, everyone who is joining us here in the audience. You are wonderful. Everybody that has asked a question, thank you. Folks who did not ask your questions or that pre-submitted them and they didn't get answered, we will put out a blog post as usual. And you now have a 15-minute short break until your next session starts at
10:30, I guess. 10:30.
10:30. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you for coming. Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thank you so much.